Last week I attended MedTech Innovation Expo in Coventry. It's a new trade show for medical device manufacturers. I was lucky enough to get a demonstration of a piece of design software from Sigmetrix from the USA. This is a piece of software which gives an added dimension to standard CAD software like Solidworks. I'll let the experts explain.
Hello, my name is Tim Bogart, and I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist and founder of Sigmetrix. We're a company that's focused on bringing the design for manufacturing information and analysis into the front end of the product development process. As a part of what we're focused on, we've had to do a significant amount of integration with the CAD systems where the design is captured, but unfortunately the design intent is not well defined. So our job is to help create a model that the engineer can use that can properly represent variation that they'll see once they start producing parts and as they go into assemblies. And it's the assembly error that we're looking for to help give the engineer a lot more insight so that they, at the early design stages, can make the changes that are necessary to make sure a design is robust before it moves to manufacturing. As part of what our objective is as a company is to try to bring the engineering of the entire product development process through the manufacturing process back into the front end. And that's critical in terms of having a model that can collect knowledge as it goes along from various people, whether it be the design engineer or the analyst or a manufacturing process planner or a tool engineer or an inspection person. All these people contribute information that's valid in terms of producing a more reliable, more robust model to do these predictions. And the predictions of the safety and the reliability is everything in the medical device industry. The CAD systems, one of the issues that we're dealing with is they're focused on identifying a perfect part so that engineers can create these surfaces and these shapes that look great, that are representing what they think they want, and they're allowed to assemble those parts together in a virtual way, but it's done without any type of analytical assistance. That is, they can assemble something virtually that cannot be assembled in the real world. So our approach is to take control of the CAD system's constraints, in this case, and put on the real-world physical constraints. That is, how will the parts really behave when they're put together? And that is a complex mathematical process that the CAD companies have not been able to develop, which is our intellectual property working for the last 20 years. What that does for you, and what's the most important thing, is that it allows you to identify the key dimensions that are going to be very sensitive to what the characteristics of the product performance are supposed to be. So if I have a critical clip or a snap on something, I want to make sure it's going to stay snapped, and I may be looking for an interference. The dimensional integrity of the parts has a huge influence on that, but we want to know which dimensions do so we can focus our efforts in those areas. And this might end up in material selection, it might end up in a different way to assemble, it might end up even in something as simple as changing a location on a design feature. So as an example, here we have a device that we've worked with, which is a port for an infusion pump, and you can see the actual device itself here, and you can see the extender. And what this port does, it allows a patient in their home to actually apply and place the port in their arm, leg, wherever it's supposed to be, so that they don't have to go to the clinic all the time in order to get this port applied. So it's about taking designs and making sure they're patient ready, that they're safe, they're reliable, and they're basically fail-safe. What happens in here, though, as you can see in the document, is there is a snap. This entire top end will snap down, and what it's doing is making sure that the penetration of the needle and that the seating of the needle is correct, and you still have a good seal. You want to make sure the patient cannot cause a problem. So there are design features about the snap that are critical to the safety of this device. And this is what the company wanted to discover, what kind of robustness issues might they have with this when they go to manufacturing.
Okay, do you want to show me on here the moving parts that you were talking about?
Okay. As you can see here, this device allows you to have the needle for the port, and the needle itself has in it another wire, and what we're trying to do is to make sure that the patient can insert the needle, drive the wire down in, And I'm going to snap this now, and you can hear the click. And once that's snapped, we know that the penetration is correct, we know that the adhesive is in the right place, and we know that we have a good connection then to the wire. And all from a click. So the patient knows when they hear the click that they in fact got a reliable connection. And then another example here is that there is a seal surface that, again, you can see is down in this area, and that seal has to be maintained, and there are some interferences there we want to guarantee, but again we have this variability. So let us show you the actual software and show you how we would measure and then identify the play, if you will, on that seal, and show you how the software can be used to get better information to make better design decisions.
Okay, I want to show you how easy it is to use CTOL to analyse the seal condition that Tim just referred to. So here's our infusion port device. It's modelled in Solidworks. I could equally well be using Creo or CATIA. I'm going to start by cutting away the things that I don't really need to deal with in this analysis. I'll take a section through that port so that we can see we're actually dealing with the port itself, and the red lower housing is this region here, and then the darker grey upper housing is around here, and this lighter grey region is the septum, and it seals against the lower surface of the upper housing, and that sealing condition is represented by the overlap between the two as it's modelled in the CAD, and we can see that the septum sits in this conical well in the lower housing. So to represent that in CTOL, all I need to do is to select that well as one side of the connection, and then I'm going to select as the other side of the connection the cylindrical outer wall of the septum. So that specifies to CTOL what the mechanical condition is, and all I need to do now is actually tell CTOL or to measure the overlap condition. So I'll measure the location of the undersurface there, and also for the other side of that measure I will choose the shoulder of the septum. So that's all I need to do to specify that. Now I just need to tell it which limits it can lie between. I'll use negative numbers to represent an overlap. I don't care how big a negative overlap I get, but what I do want is to make sure that we never go below an overlap of 0.004. That will just represent safely my seal condition. Now it just happens the way I've set this up that I'm going to get a positive value for overlap rather than a negative value. I want a negative value, so I'll just reverse the sign, and now we can see here the CAD nominal, the overlap as the parts were positioned by the CAD package is this, as positioned by CTOL is this. You can see they're not the same thing. CTOL is actually calculating for real the overlap based on the mechanical contact between those surfaces. Now if I do the analysis, you can see it runs very, very quickly. I will be able to see at a glance then in a large proportion of, if I make a large number of these components, the red region of this curve are the proportion of the manufactured value components that fail to maintain that seal condition based on the variability that I've defined in my process. But not only can I see the proportion that fail, on this plots page I can see which variables in my model are the ones that really drive that overlap condition, and we can see that it's this variable here which is the big hitter, which is the outer diameter of that septum. And one neat little trick I can do, which illustrates the type of assistance that CTOL can give you in understanding what's going on here, is I can build a little playbook of an animation of that septum moving as that variable I just selected now changes. And what we'll see now is that as the diameter gets bigger, the septum moves up, the overlap increases, and then conversely, as the diameter gets smaller, we'll see that the overlap decreases, and you can see that at the lower limit of the diameter that it even opens up here over the shoulder. That's just a tiny sample of the kind of tools that help you not only to calculate how your actual assembly will work with the tolerances that you understand and know about, but also help you to analyse and see what's driving those conditions and solve the kind of issues that you might have.
One of the other benefits that we've seen, especially in the medical device industry, is that many companies actually have products that never make it to market. That's just part of the investment, and you don't find out many times until very late in the cycle. we've been able to help companies identify where they had designs that were actually infeasible, where they thought they were feasible, to the point where they stopped program development and saved those resources and reinvested that money in other product that became very successful. This is the nature of the medical device industry. You have to try things sometimes, and you do fail. That's part of it. But we're trying to help to keep the failures to a minimum.